If you could write a letter to your younger self, what advice or encouragement would you give, and what age, this is the second part, would you deliver it to yourself? So again, what advice or encouragement would you include in that letter, and what age would you give it to yourself? Brett?
Obviously, I don't regret anything, because I really believe, God's plans really are bigger than your own, and everything that's unfolded in the course of your life has happened for a reason, regardless if we can't understand those things. But I think a lot about when I was going on my healing journey, when I was around like 24 or 25, and I was in my free time, like I just loved the nutrition piece of this whole thing. And I loved the feeling of like cooking and experimenting with certain foods and how good I felt on the other end of that. And I could see and feel myself changing. And I wanted my friends to be able to grasp onto that so strongly too, where like if anyone would ever talk to me about something, I would just write them like a 5-page workout program or like diet plan for free, because that's how much I loved it. And typically you get these signs of like, if you're willing to just do something for free in your free time, that's probably what you should be doing. But I very vividly remember wanting to tell that story at the time when I was like really getting my gut under control. And I wrote 3 separate blog posts about my healing journey, and I put so much pressure on myself that I just scrapped it and never ended up publishing it, even though I took all this time to write it. So I would have just encouraged myself to actually like take the pressure off and just publish that thing and lean into that aspect of it. Because you think back, right? It's like, that's 5-6 years ago. Say that did land, where would we be now? So I
Kind of inertia. What
exactly.
It did to you. Yeah.
Exactly. Because we've had a lot of younger guys on the show, or gone on a lot. There are these amazing younger dudes and women in Austin that are like 23, 24, that are starting their own shows, and they don't ultimately know what they want to do, but they love podcasting. And I'm like, please just don't stop doing this right now, because if you keep doing this, you don't even understand and can fathom the opportunities that are going to come your way 5 years from now.
It actually gave me chills, because I've noticed the same thing, especially in Austin. A lot of very wonderful, capable, driven younger people, and they're 23, 24. They're coming around to realize that they want to invest in a certain area of their life. And, it took me till 28 or 30 to realize that. What about you? Sorry?
I just said totally.
Yeah. And I mean, well, you guys are, that is actually inspiring too for people who are older than you. It's interesting because when you're in it, it's hard to see it, but there's, people that, look up to each of you, and they're maybe later on, not that, biological age really, or chronological age matters more than when you get started. It's just important that you get started. But it's interesting because you can admire people who are starting out younger, because it's not that you have regrets, but you're like, man, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. And even for you, right? So are you 30 right now?
32.
Yeah. So, I mean, you had this amazing job at Heart and Soil. You loved your coworkers. You were so good at your job, and you still were willing to take that leap of faith to start the health and wellness coaching business, regardless of you like having a girlfriend or wanting to start a family in the future. It's like, dude, if you didn't pull that plug like 2 years down the road, it might've been too late for you to even consider doing that. Like, it's always just important to grasp onto those nuggets, especially when you're going through it. That's something that Harry and I try and tell ourselves a lot, because there's amazing days. There's also really tough days too, whether it's like finances or just uncertainty or decisions to make. And I think it's important to just continue to pull on those strings.
That's a really excellent point. And, if at 28, when I moved to Austin and I started working for Heart and Soil, which was, the leap of faith before the leap of faith.
Yes.
I thought it was too late. And so it really never is. And I think it's important for people to hear.
Yeah.
But what about you, Harry? Letter to yourself, man. What would you say, and when would you give it to yourself?
Yeah, I think I would like reconnect with like I would write it to my 21-year-old self. I think it was just a huge transition period for me. I just stopped playing baseball, and I was just entering this phase of like wanting to work, but not really knowing what I wanted to work on. And I just had my sights set on an industry that was so not for me, and just a job that I remember walking into my first job and having this feeling, being like, I don't think this is it. Like, this isn't it. And then letting fear kind of keep me there, like fear of like it being a high paying job, but me like not being willing to leave it because, what if I can't like figure something out afterwards?
Playing it safe, rationalizing.
Yeah, some like identity stuff too, right? Like, this is a great job, like it'll look good. Instead of really just like coming to terms with the fact that I knew like pretty early on that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial and creative, and never scratched that itch early on. So I would have probably written a letter to my 21-year-old self just saying, start something. Just like start something for yourself, even if it fails. Just
Yeah.
go for it, because I think if I had gotten the ball rolling then, it would have just it would have accumulated over time in terms of just getting more comfortable overcoming fear, which I think is just something everyone encounters, right? But you need to build up enough ammunition, personal ammunition for yourself to be like, all right, like I can do this stuff. I'm capable. I'm competent. I can do this. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like I'll figure out how to make it work. And I think 21-year-old version of myself was just kind of like fixated on the wrong things early on in my career and search for what I wanted to do. So
Yeah. I think it's very natural, unfortunately, like a course of action for a lot of people, or a thought process that people have to somehow overcome, typically through trial by fire. And so I see the common denominator with sentiment is take action, between you two, which it's what you've been doing since you've met up. So that's pretty serendipitous.